Hello, Pensacola. It has been my great honor to serve as your mayor these past 2 years. Our goal has been to stay busy, and we've done just that, making significant strides in public safety, housing, and vibrancy. Our efforts mean a brighter future for all of us. Public safety is always important, and as promised when I started, we've made safety our administration's top priority. While many cities around the country struggle to recruit and retain their heroes, we've taken an all-hands approach, investing millions right away into improving community safety. Wages were recently set at record levels for our police and firefighters, ensuring that the people who put their life on the line for us can have a strong quality of life in the city that they protect.
2024 has been great for Pensacola Fire. We partnered with the American Red Cross and installed over 900 smoke alarms this year. Our previous record was 66 smoke alarms. We've hired 15 new firefighters, 4 fire cadets, 2 lieutenants, 1 captain, 1 operational battalion chief, and a new fire marshal. And this culture that we have of promoting from within, they're receiving the training they need, they have the experience they need, and we give them the chance for the promotion. So we're excited to be able to do that with our workforce.
We've also been aggressive in adding initiatives like the Shot Spotter detection technology and our PPD community response team that helps with mental health and homelessness outreach.
2024 has been an amazing year for Pensacola Police Department. We've been busy doing a lot of different things. Primary mission is to make sure the city of Pensacola is very, very safe. Community Response Specialist is about the police department in the city of Pensacola being very proactive in addressing some of the needs of our homeless and unsheltered. They work with a lot of our homeless shelters, our mental health providers, and that's been the difference. It's been a game changer in how we do things here at Pensacola PD.
As every city in our nation deals with a housing crisis, Pensacola has taken aggressive steps. We have invested millions into workforce, military, and mixed-income housing solutions across the city, including a potential 90 units of the Pensacola Motor Lodge, and hundreds to come when the city takes over the legacy campus of Baptist Hospital.
We have garnered incredible community support. Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, and the city of Pensacola in particular have really stepped up. One of the big initiatives that we have right now is our Community Land Trust. For the first time, we have a vehicle at hand that is going to create a permanent stock of affordable homes. Most exciting is the redevelopment of the former Malcolm Young property on East Jackson Street. It will be a project the entire community will be very proud of. It's time to adapt, and I applaud the mayor and the city for taking on this big initiative.
Our goal has been to continue to make the city of Pensacola vibrant for all of us. That means stepping up to fix city assets that have been neglected for years, as well as to bring new amenities and revitalization to this community we love. From finding the $2.2 million to fix a broken Bay Bluffs Park to the award-winning Bruce Beach, it means unprecedented repair allocations for our parks and community centers. It means getting state and federal funds for a much-needed $90 million airport terminal expansion and the new Palafox, a reimagining of our most iconic downtown street. I promised we would be aggressive to get the things that we need in Pensacola, and through our amazing grants team, we've earned more than $100 million in funding to take on monumental projects. Thanks to those grants, in 2025, we will become the permanent home for American Magic Sailing Team and starting a bright future as the home of sailing in the United States. The journey for these past 2 years is about all of us. I'll continue to give the citizens of this great city everything I have to build a Pensacola that's safe, affordable, and full of opportunity for everyone. Thank you for being part of this journey with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pensacola Mayor D.C. Reeves.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we covered it. Are we all done with the video? Is everybody good? Thank you guys so much for being here. After 2 years as mayor, I promise that my ego is not getting to me. I did not think, like the Eagles or the Rolling Stones, that I would sell out the Sanger Theater, but it is a beautiful place, and starting next month, it'll be April of 2025 will be the 100th anniversary of the Sanger Theater. So I thought that was an awesome thing and something to look forward to in 2025. Thank you to Jeff and his team. Thank you to Jason Wheeler and Alex Smith in our PIO's office to get everything set up tonight. And what I want to do is, you'll see this is pretty informal. This is not the stereotypical stand at a podium and read a State of the Union speech. What I really want to do is tell you everything that we've been working on, what we're excited about, and I know I'll be able to answer some of your questions that you guys provided to Civicon and to the News Journal. You heard in the video, my promise 2 years ago was to make this a city for all of us. And what our city experience is so different. And you don't have to look any further than the housing crisis that we deal with. When I talk to mayors all over the country, one of the most difficult things is we all are in a housing crisis, but how we define that crisis is drastically different, from city to city, from citizen to citizen, from neighborhood to neighborhood, and that's what makes some of these issues complex. But the goal should always be, aspirationally, that we're making Pensacola a city for all of us. I was joking with Lisa backstage. One thing I'm grateful for is I just was with a bunch of mayors a couple months ago, and we again, cities all over the country, homelessness at some level of intensity, everybody is dealing with. Housing crisis, every mayor in every city is dealing with. And of course, there's some nuanced things, unique things that some cities have worse than others. And so, mayors in a room is kind of like group therapy. We're talking about all these different issues, and how we're dealing with them, and what somebody said about us on Facebook. So we go around and someone talks about the recruitment and retention of police officers, how difficult that is in their city. And someone mentions violent crime, and it's my turn to mention our issues, and I say, it's $1 an hour parking and our airport's too busy, and they thought I was humble bragging that those were our big issues. Of course, we've got much bigger issues than that, and we'll talk about some of those and what we're trying to do. But it does always remind me when I do hear these group therapy sessions that Pensacola really is on an amazing trajectory that I'm excited about. And I remember, just being a kid from here, moving back here, about how I thought we should aspire to be these other cities, one day. And I wonder what it would be like if Pensacola would be one of those cities one day. And now I think there's a lot of those cities that want to be like us. And that's not the work of one mayor or one administration. It's the work of private investment, small business owners, our healthcare systems, just having a great philanthropic community. I mean, that's what makes it attractive. When I talk to people who visit here or who have relocated here, that is what they see as an outsider. It's not just us eating our own cooking. As you see up there, what we really do want to deliver for all of the community. We are number 4, a couple of those superlatives that we've had this past year, number 4 safest city in the United States. A huge thank you to our Pensacola Police Department for that. A huge round of applause deserved. Top 10 place to retire, top 10 small city. So, all of those things, I need to just, wear them on a piece of paper on my back as I walk around, everywhere when I'm at these mayor conferences. But anyway, just a very, very exciting time in Pensacola, and I'm glad to be with you. Okay, so I want to throw to a video with American Magic here in a second if you guys haven't seen it. Just about 2 minutes, but a quick update. We're obviously very excited to have American Magic here, 10-year lease that will start. We are shooting right now for a fall completion of Warehouse 10. So if you drive over the 3 Mile Bridge and you see the thing that is kind of looks like that, kind of look like a skeleton, that is Warehouse 10. That will be the future home of American Magic, right around 55,000 square feet, 150 high-paying jobs from the outset. And what you guys probably followed or maybe heard about in this past year was the American Magic sailing team in the America's Cup. But if you've heard me at Rotary clubs or anything else talking about this in recent months, that is kind of the cool factor, the wow factor that plants the flag as a sailing destination in the world, in the United States. But truly, some of the economic development return on investment that we're going to see in the city, and that starts this year, is all of the other ancillary events that are going to be taking place in sailing in our bay because of the credibility that they bring to us. So it may not be just their boat. It's going to be all of the other boats that are coming in. We do know that there's going to be a GL 52-foot sailboat series in March and April that will be here. 8 teams will be here. Just their crew, ownership principals will be about 200 people coming here just to run the event. And these are multi-million dollar high performance boats, and will be probably the most advanced sailboats. I would let a more astute sailor confirm that for me, but some of the most advanced sailboats, if not the most, that I've ever raced on our bay. So it's those type of opportunities to let people interact with our city that really are going to help us drive more and more economic development and return from this amazing partnership. But I wanted to share this with you again. It's just a couple minutes long, and this is our partners now at America Magic talking about our great city.
Dr. Andrews introduced us to Pensacola, and that was really where it all started. We went and developed a great relationship with Clark and Amy at the port, and now with Mayor Reeves' office. You know, the way things have grown and the way the community has embraced us. I mean, just even the relationship that we've had with Collier Merrill there, he's been so instrumental in helping forge, the foundation of the team's presence there, and really, as all these, team members got involved with the team and helped really open our eyes to the possibilities, you can't really thank them enough, because really it's their vision as native Pensacolians that have allowed us to come and really see what we can do there. I mean, it's a true partnership.
So very, very excited to have them. And again, be on the lookout. Really our first big international sailing regatta in Pensacola Bay, one in March, one in April. So very excited for that. Affordable housing, again, an issue that we all deal with as mayors all over the country. And to reiterate, if I could wave a magic wand in a national conversation about affordable housing, it would be that we come up with some clear definitions of how we define it and how we generally try to solve it. And what I mean is, you can look at any article about an affordable housing initiative that we have. I'll talk about a few of those. And it's just so obvious that affordable housing, attainable housing, every human being, every city, every neighborhood has a different definition of what that means. And why that becomes more difficult is because now, how do we measure success? What does success look like? When have we solved the problem? And to one person, we'll have solved it if they have a house, and to another person, if there's not something available that they can afford, then we have done nothing, ultimately. So what do I do with that? That sounds like a problem without a solution. I believe, and the position that the city has taken on this so far, is that we've got to find housing affordability at every income level, from homeless and homeless transitional all the way to market rate. And the truth of the matter is, until we have supply, until we can have supply at all levels, we can't solve this issue. And the stat that always sticks with me, and it was confirmed by the Center for Housing Study by Harvard University that came out just a couple months ago, is for every 100 market rate units that are provided in a community. Market rate, so just 100 units, apartments are built tomorrow in our community. Within 2.5 years, 41 affordable units are created. And it's because there's the compression for folks that, let's say market rate's $2,000. Well, if I'm in a $1,700 a month house or apartment and I can afford $2,000, but there isn't any available, then I'm not leaving the $1,700. And so on and so forth. Then if I'm at $1,400, I'm not leaving, because even if I can afford more, because there's nowhere to go. And so until we can figure out, until we have a general understanding that we have to attack this at all levels, I don't know how much we're going to solve, and especially in that middle, the workforce housing. That migration that I just described, it's 5 migrations over 2.5 years that create 41 affordable units. That migration cannot happen without step 2 and without step 3. So we can't be so short-sighted as a community, as a region, as a country, to think that if we just build 60% AMI housing, that's going to solve our problem. Or if we only build market rate housing, that's going to solve our problem. So the attack that we've tried to take at the city is that we are attacking this problem, a significant one, at every level we can. So you heard the Motor Lodge mentioned 90 units, potentially, fingers crossed, if they can get a tax credit. that will be in the 60 to 70% AMI range. You see the open parcel at the former Malcolm Young site, that will be at least 12 units, and half of those, of all 15 that you just read about in the paper, 12 at Malcolm Young, 3 scattered site, 9 of those will be at 80% AMI. Baptist Hospital has the transformational opportunity to have housing at every single level on site, and that is what our goal is. You will start hearing in the coming months about the 2 PACES projects that receive tax credits. What does that mean? That's 100 senior units, 100 family units, that they were already in negotiation with Baptist Hospital to purchase that property. And even with our transaction, our agreement in principle that we have with Baptist right now, we have allowed, of course, those to continue to move forward. So you may, if you hear something about they're building something at Baptist, yes and no. It's on Baptist campus, but that's 200 affordable units that will be done much quicker than anything that the city will be able to do on the other 35 acres. So you should be hearing about those in 2025, and those should be getting underway in 2025 once the donation takes place. So very, very excited about that. And lastly, there's no photo for this, but I think it's probably the most vital tool we have as mayors, is we're overhauling our entire land development code. We have not done that, I believe, in at least major aspects of it in 16 years. And I always say in Pensacola years, that's like 50. You know, there was one restaurant down here, I think, 16 years ago. So you know, it's time. And it's even more so topical because many of the things that we would like to do to help increase housing supply are limited by archaic rules that were written in the 70s and 80s. And I always use the ranch style zoning, as I call it, as an example. You can have a parcel that's an R1 AAA lot that's 10,000 square feet, quarter acre, basically, and you might be allowed a single family house and maybe an accessory dwelling unit on the back. There could be 2 units there on that amount of property. And so what does that lead? What is land development code going to be? It's going to be some difficult conversations that we're going to have as a community about what that means. There's historically been lots of pushback about the NIMBYism of saying, well, that sounds good, Mayor, but I don't want that next to me. I hope that we're all feeling the pain or seeing the pain, whether it's our kids and grandkids that want to move home and can't afford it. I always ask that question, you guys. I know some of you have heard me speak a lot, and I always ask that question, show of hands, who's never lived in an apartment? Or the fact that some of the most beautiful quadplexes in the city, if not the most beautiful, were built in the 30s and 40s. And so we really have to challenge ourselves about what's best for this community. And that doesn't mean that land development code changes in every single corner of the city the exact same way. That's why this is a 24-month process. And as an old business owner, now turned city government guy, I hate saying that something's going to take 24 months, but it should, because this is a very, very important discussion. So you may not see lots of headlines about that, or I can't show you a parcel of the type of impact that that's going to have, but I do definitely challenge you to be engaged in what the land development code overhaul is doing. And I could regale you with, and we probably will encourage mayors from other cities to maybe come and speak at Civicon, or to tell you about the awesome experiences they've had that have really unleashed some power for them to create housing stock and affordability in their city. Next. All right, Baptist Hospital. We are obviously excited that this continues to progress. Erica Grand-Cagnolo in our Economic Development Department, our Meredith in our Housing Department. There's so many people that have already touched this project before it really even is ours at this point. But I just want to give you guys a kind of a quick timeline update of where we are. We have gotten an environmental study back that ultimately has said, what not too much surprise in our building, but ultimately has said there's really no repurpose value in the existing structures. So the emails that someone might have sent me that says, well, why don't you put this in this building? When you read the lines that there's mold growing on top of asbestos, you know, that's usually the line where I'm not sure that the repurposing is really going to make a lot of sense. So, but they don't have to take my word for it. Certainly I'm not a professional. That's why we ask professionals to come in and assess it. But the buildings and the the toxins or asbestos or whatever is in there has just doesn't really allow that there's some efficient repurposing of these buildings. So the expectation is that it will be fully demolished. So where do we go from here? This month, we will have a short list of qualified demo contractors with an RFQ. So we ultimately went out to the world and said, who is qualified to knock down a structure or a hospital of this size? So we'll have that short list of who those people are, those companies, this month. Next month, in January, you will be hearing about this project again, because really that's when the rubber meets the road, is how expensive is it going to be? We've done our best. I think Baptist has done their best to estimate what we think it's going to be, and that's where that $16 million number that you may have heard comes from. It's as educated as we can be without all of the variables. So we will find out in January when those shortlisted demo contractors come back to us with a price that they put their name on. Is it 25 million? Is it 10 million? Is it 16 million? That's really when the rubber meets the road to understand exactly where we are. Obviously, where our strategy goes from there varies widely by the answer that we get. But I'm certainly hopeful that we've procured the funding. Let's assume that we can afford it, and with the money that we have allocated, thanks from the state, from several of the grants that we were able to get, our county partnership, city partnership, Baptist's partnership has allowed us to cobble together that $16 million. If we're able to, if that is well within the number or pretty close to it, the next step obviously would be, one, to engage the community about what we want to see there, once we know that it's something that we can afford to do. And secondly would be to finalize a donation agreement with Baptist Hospital in March. So we will have a very, very consequential next 4 months as it pertains to this project. But anything that you may hear that we're not urgent or we're not moving on this project is false. To be honest with you, if this goes the way that I hope that it goes, and we basically went from having the governor not veto on July 1st of 2024 money to get this project done, and if we have this thing moving by March, I go to a lot of big cities that have had a lot of abandoned hospitals for 10 and 15 and 20 years. And I would be certainly proud of this entire collaborative effort if we're able to get this done and be moving in a matter of a year. And I think that's what the city's role in this is. And people ask, how do you see your role in Baptist? And I truly say, this is a community effort, and it's also in a melting pot of our community, some of the most underserved part of our community, next to some of the most historic buildings that we have. And if our blood, sweat, and tears to cobble together the funds to make this happen is what the city's cost is to have generational opportunity for housing, then it certainly is in our purview. Revitalizing Pensacola, we have transformational projects coming in 2025, lots of shovels in the dirt. I've tried to spend these first 2 years, I say setting up the pins, and when I say me, I mean the amazing 850 people who work for the City of Pensacola, and helping try to provide some direction and some advocacy to be able to get these projects funded. But man, the list, Hollis T. Williams Stormwater Park, that over 18 city blocks, we've procured $30 million of funding for that. You will start to see, by November of 2025, we should have a full design of that park and be ready for construction. Restoring City Hall, we've spent about $1 million. We built a lot of things in the year 1985. I was born in 1984, and I don't think we touched some of these things since 1985, like City Hall. So we've invested $1 million into City Hall. Saving Cobb Center, $1.7 million for the exterior of Cobb Center. We have committed to that. And then you saw in the video, the reimagination of Palafox Street. It's our iconic downtown street. It's where our visitors come to see us, and it's where we interact with our friends and our family and what we brag about when we say our downtown's cool. And so I think it's certainly due for a facelift. That's looking about $5 million at this point, 5 to 6. And then lastly, it's not really a structure, but I do want to mention as we revitalize Pensacola is I promised we would come back with something better with curbside recycling than we had when I got here. And as I make decisions like charging more for parking and taking away recycling, and you wonder and you question my intelligence, I do try to come back and prove myself and say that I promise to bring you back something that's better for you and better for our community. So in the coming days, we'll have signed and finalized a $250,000 grant with the Recycling Partnership, which is a national nonprofit that helps start and restart recycling, that will actually accomplish two things. First, it will be education and direct mail. So one thing I can promise you in 2025, if you're a city resident, is you're going to be getting a lot of mail about curbside recycling, both what you should be putting in your can and if you'd like to sign back up. The goal, our goal right now, as of this realistic goal we expect to hit, is that we will have curbside back in the spring. So in a matter of about 4 months. Second to that, that I think is kind of cool. Maybe I'm just a nerd, but the other half of that grant is to put AI camera technology on our recycling trucks, that when we come to your house and we lift your can from curbside, that camera will analyze whether you've contaminated your recycling can or not. And if you did, you'll get a nice friendly letter in the mail from us that says you might have accidentally contaminated your recycling. And if you get a few of those in a month, we might come get your can from you. But so we're very, very excited for that. And truly, it's not meant to pester. It's really, what's the goal of recycling? And that, I mean, that's when I had to kind of break down the wish cycling aspect of where we were, that 50% of our recycling that we were putting in the can was contaminated. And then even more of that had no market. We were not selling it. It was just going in the dump anyway, even if it was recyclable, that we had to hit the reset button. So we'll be coming back, and some of that education you'll be getting, 4 or 5 items. That's it. It's going to be these 4 or 5 things. And we're going to be using AI technology to help us make sure that we stay within those guideposts and make sure that what's going in your can actually is helping the environment. So more to, and lastly, it is opt-in. So we're going to be coming up with a new dynamic pricing structure. If all you want is 1 garbage can once a week, if that's all you want, you're going to be able to take that. If you want 2 garbage cans once a week and a recycling can, you got 6 kids at the house, and you can't get enough cans, we'll get you those too. So, so we will offer all of those options. You'll be learning a lot more. You'll probably be communicated with sometime in January, with the goal again, March or April for recycling. Connecting our waterfront, a couple quick things on this that I'm really excited about. The Sun Trail project, which is a mixed-use path along Bayfront Parkway that would connect the 3-mile bridge to our downtown, is fully underway. I'm very appreciative of FDOT's support for this. We said this is something that we wanted when the large injection of Sun Trail funding was given in Tallahassee. We jumped right on it. If we weren't the first application in, we were close. And it's about a $4, $5, $6 million project all told, and the net result will be a 12-foot mixed-use biking, walking path on the south side of Bayfront Parkway that will connect you. And we all do that test. I've got my 10-year-old here, and I say, would I put my 10-year-old on a bike on Bayfront Parkway right now? And I don't know that at every aspect of Bayfront Parkway I would do that. And after this project's done, I think we can all, at 10 or 8 or 6 or 4, I think we could all say we would. So very excited about that. And there's a second phase that we continue to talk with FDOT about, which would be from the port to Bayou Chico. So it would actually, there's the potential of all 2.2 miles being connected with protected bike path and walk path all the way through our city. So very, very excited about that. Bay Bluffs Park, we mentioned a second ago, I'll talk more about with our partnership with Conservation Florida. And we continue to move forward with the hashtag project. That's been something that's been discussed here for many years. We do have design of phase 1. We're going to get ready for design of phase 2, and we're going to see how funding looks with construction of phase 1, which is ultimately Main Street. But more to come on that. I promised I'd talk about it. The parking reform, obviously, like recycling, change certainly causes anxiety, but I do assure you we'll end up in a better place. In the past 3 months, I just took a sample. I had Lisa in our parking office send me all the data from, I believe it would have been, let's say, August, September, October. So the past 3 months, 62,000 paid parking transactions, 4,000 zip codes is how many people in the last 3 months billing zip codes, 4,000. August, September, October, of those, if you take 32501, 02, 03, 04 area codes, paid parking, $1 an hour. I do not speak for the private lots. You'll have to go. They might have another meeting after this, but I'm talking just about city on-street $1 an hour parking. 19.1% of the revenue that was collected in the last 3 months of those 62,000 transactions, 19% of it came from people who live in the city. 81% of the revenue that we just generated out there in paid parking came from people who do not pay taxes in the city, that do not pay for infrastructure in the city. And if you aren't a property owner, a business owner, or a renter in the city, then you do not pay any of those taxes. That does not mean, look, we appreciate all our downtown business owners. I mean, we are not self-reliant. It is vitally important that we have visitors come in. We know how important that is for our economy. But there's a misnomer that spending money at a place downtown means you're helping pay for infrastructure when our tax setup does not. That is not the case. It is our property owners in the city of Pensacola and our business owner, and our renters who pay franchise fees, which would be a couple dollars on your cell phone bill or your power bill, that pay the lion's share of the infrastructure of the city. So I think it's just important because, we've kind of accepted bed tax as a tax on the visitors. I don't know about you guys. I've paid bed tax in this county, and I haven't protested when I go to the Hilton at the beach that I shouldn't pay because I'm a local. I would actually argue that 85% of that revenue that will now lead to a parking garage that is, I would think, is needed. Parking availability was the #1 complaint in our study, and all of the other amenities that we need. We had to make a decision. We were not generating enough revenue to do anything in paid parking. We were already asking you to take your phone out. We were charging you 50 cents an hour, yet we were making about what one private lot makes in the city, throughout the whole city. So what does that mean? We're already asking you to pay. We're already asking you the inconvenience, yet we aren't generating enough revenue to do anything with it. So what are we accountable to in 2025? We're accountable to trying to show you what we're doing with the money. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we want, is maybe we can live with the inconvenience of paying 50 cents more an hour, but in reality, what you want to know is, well, where's that going? What are we doing with it? So you can go to parkpensacola.com right now. We track in real time exactly how much money we've spent of your parking money and where it's going. We have a parking garage study for Commendencia just south of the Beggs and Lane and Holiday Inn there. We have picked a firm that will be doing a feasibility study for a parking garage, structured parking garage, here in the coming months. You see, actually it's out there tonight. If you want to get some of your 50 cents an hour, we got a free trolley running up and down, or if you want to park for free somewhere and you can ride from Commendencia to Wright Street, free parking, we've got a free trolley that's running up and down Palafox Street. And so what we should be accountable to is showing you where we're spending those dollars. And we'll continue to do that in 2025. A couple last things that are on the way. We're increasing our wayfinding signs to that free parking. If you do not want to pay, it's just not a dollar an hour, it's the principal, whatever the reason is, we have hundreds of spots. 70% of our parking that the city owns is free, and we have hundreds of spots within 2 blocks. Additionally, when we talk about accessibility, folks with limited access, most curbs and most on-street parking in most cities in the United States is not ADA compliant. One modification that we're making to Palafox Street is that we are going to keep the 2 southernmost bays closest to Romana, and those are going to actually become, after 5 o'clock, drop-on, drop-off ADA compliant spaces. So you'll be able to pull up, drop someone off that needs to be dropped off, and either park for $1 an hour right around the corner, or go a block or 2 and be able to park for free. So we want to continue to have that access for everybody. Yeah. Thank you. All right, creating a safe place to live, work, and play. I'm proud to say, well, maybe that's not the right term, but the Bearcat's already been used. I shouldn't want it to be used, but we had, you guys have heard me talk about it. I think I talked about it last year at the State of the City and showed you the photo of the plumber's van that we were sending our SWAT team in to come save you if there was a bank robbery. We now have this vehicle, the Bearcat. We're excited to have it. It has actually, fortunately and unfortunately, been used, but was used successfully. So we're excited to have that. You heard from Chief Craner and Chief Randall. Again, our fire department's top 1% ISO fire department, one of the top 1% in the United States of America, #4 safest city. And we've invested about $3 million in infrastructure for public safety, equipment for public safety, salaries for public safety. And we now, if with council approval, on the police officer union contract for starting pay going from $45,000 to $52,500, about a 17% increase. We'll have the highest starting pay, of course, of all time for both our fire last year and police this year. So when those mayors are worried about recruitment and retention, we have two important things. We got a great place to live, and we got a great police and fire department where people want to work, and that's certainly good for us, and it's good for our safety. I'm excited about how we've overhauled what community engagement looks like, and I give a lot of credit to Civicon, actually. If you guys have been here a long time, you know that 5 years ago I was the one checking these mics and setting this up and for everybody, but it was cool because I got to sit in the back and learn a lot, from national folks about all of these different issues. And one of the things I learned through that process is when SCAPE came, and Quentin Rishi, of course, graciously funded the waterfront activation project that SCAPE had put in that ultimately led to the hashtag and to Bruce Beach. I got to see what right looks like there too, because my job for 6 months was, Quentin said, go work with SCAPE and go get whatever they need to do to be able to get this accomplished. And so that entire process, we sold out Sanders Beach twice. How they engage different parts of our community, different races, different genders, ages, was really amazing, and it resonated with me. And so thanks to our team that we have here, and I'm talking in every aspect, land development code, strategic plan, our CRA plans, our Hollis T. Williams development framework, we've had about 4 or 5 bites at the apple to really try to set the stage of what community engagement should look like. And I'm really, really proud of what we've been able to do so far, and that should be the expectation moving forward. For city government, sometimes you can see where it's like a check-a-box thing, like, hey, let's have a meeting one night at 5 o'clock, and if 3 people show up, 3 people show up. I think we've tried to turn that on its head and try to come to where people are. And so why is that important? It's important because if I'm making decisions on behalf of you, I like to have the confidence that I know it's truly on behalf of you. And so I'm thankful to our team for really embracing that. I'm thankful to Civicon for really learning that, and we'll continue to do that moving forward in 2025. You guys, one of the other things, we can talk about recycling or parking. Another thing that's been a little eventful here in my first 2 years is fixing some of these things that maybe not have been paid close attention to over many years of time. So it's really been my goal to focus a little bit less. If you really look at anything new we're doing, any new construction that you're going to see or you hear me talk about, almost 100% of it, I'd have to go back and look and see, but almost 100% of it is grant funded. And why that's important is because I continue to keep the promise that we need to maintain the things that we have. So when we're making difficult decisions within our budget about the general fund dollars that our property owners and our city residents pay us, I think the top priority for those should be to maintain the assets that we already have. So when you see Hollis T. Williams, when you see some of these other projects, American Magic, for example, those are the vast majority of the funding of that, if not 100%, is from new money that has allowed us, that we have won on an application to be able to move forward. But with existing dollars, we have completely reprioritized maintaining and fixing and repairing the things that we have. And I put it anecdotally this way, and I think if anybody who lives here can appreciate this. We need to change the feeling that when you go to a park in the city that the water fountain isn't going to work. And we need it to be, you'd be surprised if it doesn't work, or you'd be surprised if the bench isn't fixed. That isn't anything that our Parks and Rec department has done. That isn't over the years. It starts here, and we have to reemphasize and prioritize fixing the things that we have. So what do we have right now? We have right now with current allocated funds, and we had put away $1.7 million of new money going into just Parks and Rec maintenance. We had just said, we have so much of it, we're going to set this money aside and make sure that that's injected into our parks and our community centers. When you combine money that's already allocated by our council, grant money, and new money, we have $21,722,686 budgeted for our 2025 parks restoration projects. That will start this year. So Bay Bluffs Park repair, $2.2 million. A new Fricker Center, the largest community center investment in the history of our city, 100% grant funded. Give about, of $9.5 million, about $500,000 of that is our money. $9.5 million to revitalize a much needed Fricker Center replacement repair. So that will be a new community center. And then fix the repair a Cobb Center before we lose it like we had to lose Malcolm Young, which is well on its way until we do something. So we have committed $1.7 million to that. And then it's all those little things. It's the water fountain aspect. We're gonna replace and repair 23 basketball courts. Dozens of garbage cans or new garbage cans where they're not just plastic barrels and there's something that looks a little bit nicer. The benches that have always been broken, that we fix them. The surface at your playground that might be not ADA compliant, that's going to become ADA compliant. All of those things, those will obviously, it's a lot of work. $21 million of work will not happen in 6 months. But what you'll see coming in front of you guys, the public, is we will have ultimately a timeline of how those projects are going to lay into each other and when they're going to happen. But that will be a positive impact in 7 districts, all 7. I'd be shocked if any of our 94 parks, at least something, won't be improved at every single one of the 94 parks that we have. Pensacola International Airport, 434 spaces, opened in November. Thank you for filling it up like the first week. You validated, I would have been worried on Thanksgiving weekend if the thing was half empty. We could have used all that dirt for something else. So if you didn't see on Friday of Thanksgiving weekend, I believe we had it's either 42 or 46,000 passengers on Thanksgiving weekend. So 434 spaces opened. We incentivized the contractor to get those things done by November 15th because we thought this weekend might be busy. So thank you for proving me and Matt Coughlin and the airport team right. It filled up completely on Friday, and our overflow lot on McAllister over off Langley was completely full on Friday. So I guess we made a good decision on that. We did surpass 3 million passengers this year, an all-time record. I may get this wrong, but I believe the jumps have been something like 2.2, 2.4, 2.7, 3 million. And our Thanksgiving weekend is up 8% from the all-time record last year. So what does that mean we have? We have 3 million people going through a 1.5 million airport. That's what we have right now. And so we're very, very excited to get this project going. We're on track to break ground on this expansion in July. Now, it will be a progressive groundbreaking. That does not mean you'll see the wall for a new airport terminal in July. There's changes at the TSA area. There's lots of work that needs to be done ahead of the actual new terminal and the pretty photos that you'll see of that in the coming months. But that will be 5 new gates for us that can handle the same size equipment that's already coming in. Certainly opens us up to have more nonstop opportunity, more frequency opportunity. And the total enhancements that this project will take, when you talk about the new increased need and baggage claim, the utility plant, the 5 new gates, the security area, all that is going to be well north, I'm going to say, of $120 million. And so we are 100% committed to that. We've already gotten about $9 million of federal and state. We are bonding the other part of that, so we are not waiting to collect $120 million from federal and state partners. But the nice part is, as we continue to push forward that project, we should see more and more state and federal funding when they know we're serious and that we know that we're building it. So very exciting, and thank you for anybody that was at our open house at the airport yesterday to come look at some of those renderings. Growing partnerships, obviously collaboration is going to be big for us. Conservation Florida is a perfect example. So Bay Bluffs Park is broken. We have boards, broken boardwalks that are unsafe to go on, and I'm presented with 2 options, which is close a park that everybody loves that I grew up when I was going to St. Paul's going and playing on, or have someone get hurt or killed because they fell through or fell down a broken bluff. So not a fun decision to make, an easy decision to make, but not a fun one. And so we're looking at what that cost might be and what that park might look like. So remember, we're asking for money for the airport terminal. We're asking for money for Baptist Hospital. How do we get creative and continue to try to find funding mechanisms at the state level. So we partner with Conservation Florida. Their job is to preserve beauty in the state of Florida, property in the state of Florida for the rest of time, in perpetuity. So we've accomplished two things. One, we've done that. We are well on our way that Bay Bluffs Park, by this mayor or any other mayor for the rest of time, will remain in the public realm. And that we couldn't say that for every piece of the property. Secondly, it helped us get a $2.2 million grant to fix it. And so we are partnered directly with Conservation Florida. It's moving a little slow, but we continue to work with them in collaboration, and we will be coming back to the public to see what they want Bay Bluffs Park to look like in 2025. And then lastly, you see you can't read that photo, but in the bottom right, just some more examples, partnering with UWF Historic Trust to redo the entrance on Zaragoza Street to when you go to Seafood Fest or Arts Fest, that we've kind of narrowed that down to one lane, made it safer, because that really is kind of a front door, back door for all of those festivals. And then you'll see another Portland Loo. If you've been to Bruce Beach, the bathroom that we have there, you'll see another Portland Loo in partnership with UWF behind the State Museum, right there on Museum Plaza. So that'll be accessible for Palafox Market, Plaza Ferdinand, and all of those events that we have there. So that's another partnership. So obviously partnering with great community organizations is key for us. Valuing our people, we had every 2 months, 2 to 3 months, we have our employee events where we congratulate and appreciate our folks for 1 year, 5 years. We had one, Dina Lucia, today. We had 35 years of service at the city. And we really have taken a focus the last 2 years on making sure that this is a great place to work. You recall that we've done pay reform. By the time we're done this coming year, we will have integrated $4 million of additional salary to make us competitive. When I got here, 4 out of 5 municipalities in the United States of America paid better than we did. By the time this year is out, we will be at the 50th percentile. We'll be competitive across the country. And why that's important? Because we need quality people going and fixing our parks and going and working for you and coming to interact with you guys. And we can't I don't think it's fair to our employees or to our citizens to chalk it up to government not having the money to do it. Quality is important to us. And when you run a business, you got to have people in the positions, and you got to have people you can count on. We can't do that when we're paying in the 20th percentile. So it's important also to point out 75% of those $4 million are going to people who make less than $50,000 a year. And really the people that are out there running the street sweeper in the middle of the night, working on our parks, cutting the tree limbs so your car gets through okay, those folks that work so hard that you'll never see and never interact with. And when a hurricane comes and it's time to clean out stormwater drains and all of those things that you may not see and may not interact with, are the people that we're talking about. So I'm happy to see our employee engagement score actually went up pretty significantly, to about 67% this year, up from 63 the year before. So I think we've got a happier workforce. Always have things to work on, like any business that you are at. It's never mission accomplished, but I'm really happy with our team. You heard me say this about the strategic plan. Without a plan, everything fits. And that was a Civicon line when I was standing in the back from Ed McMahon. And I really, really greatly encourage you, if you were not part of this, to make sure that you go read. It's at Pensacola2035.com. I know they gave out some flyers when you walked in. It's got a QR code on it. I strongly recommend, as a citizen of this city, that you read it. I think you'll nod your head a lot. Maybe you'll disagree with some things, but I think for the most part, housing being our #1 issue, for example, that you'll agree with, and there's a lot of great insight in there. We heard from 1,700 of our residents, of our community members, and we had enough of a sample at every gender, every race, every age. So we didn't just take the first 1,700 people who showed up. And I believe, I don't want to speak for Gail who did this, but I believe when they did something similar in Austin, Texas, slightly larger city than us, they got 1,000 submissions. We got 1,700. So I'm very appreciative of our community and appreciative of Adrian Walker and Rachel Bennett and all of our folks at the city that really made sure that, as I said earlier, that when we want community engagement, that we go out and get it. I'll just give you the 8 just to give you a teaser for the strategic plan. I'm just going to read it really came down to 8 objectives that we heard from you. Why we did a strategic plan is I do the best that I can to predict and guess and analyze and strategize around what we think is best for the city. But the only thing that I have is my experience growing up here, my interactions with you, I think Mayor Hayward, I think Mayor Robinson, I think that I make the best decisions we can with the information that we have. But what's better than that is having information from 1,700 of you to help guide us, guide our council members that are here tonight. You tell us what's important to you, and that's what you did. So now we can go around the alignment of what you have told us is important. And my job and what I'm accountable to is implementing these things. And that's what, again, we will do in 2025. So here are just the 8 things, the 8 headlines, and there's all the content you want in that strategic plan. But this is what the 8 things that you told us as community members that you want. Attainable housing for all income levels. Safe streets for all mobilities. Support for youth experiences. More walkable. Mixed-use districts that aren't just downtown, public spaces that connect communities, neighborhoods that celebrate culture and honor legacy. So again, Pensacola2035.com if you didn't get a flyer, and if you did, you've got a QR code right on there. It's been such an honor to get to do this for 2 years, and people ask me if I've how do I feel, and is the honeymoon over, and it's usually after a parking question or something, but look, this job is just like your job. I've got really good days, and I've got tough days, and days that it seems like everything's going wrong, and days where someone called us and said we're getting $30 million for a grant for a project. So this job is no different than that, but the position that I always take is this really, again, is a get-to job. And I'm truly honored to get to do this and get to work with these 850 people. What I can promise you is progress on all of these things. And what I promise you, as I did before I took this job, and as I told you last year, is you'll get everything I have to make this a special place. It's an easy place to root for. You see how many people are here tonight that care about this community, that want to hear what's going on, and I'm really eternally grateful for that. So again, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for what you do in our community to make it really, really special, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Reeves, for the wonderful presentation. My name is Kevin Robinson. I'm a Civicon board member. I'm going to talk to Mayor Reeves, ask some of your questions. But first, could we give the mayor another round of applause for his wonderful presentation? And the first question I want to start off with is one that you actually already answered at our previous Civicon event, but just relating to the strategic plan, we asked, how is that going to reflect in your day-to-day work of your staff, your department heads, your citizens? Like, you've got these 8 goals, but how do you make sure that the everyday work you're doing is reflected?
Yeah, what's great is now that we have the finished product, we've actually had a lot of conversations with city staff on the 7th floor just about how do we hardwire, because we all know what we think briefly as Pensacolians when we hear that we've got another plan, right? I've seen a lot of those plans. What do we do with them? Are they collecting dust on a shelf? In some cases, probably so. In some cases, probably not. Maybe it's misperceived that there was no impact of those. But to ensure that we do, we have to hardwire, and that's why I say I'm accountable for implementation. So someone has to be accountable. Somebody has to be accountable to implement a strategic plan, or it will just become something that sounded nice and maybe that we don't accomplish. So examples, obviously these are conversations we have to have with council members, council staff, all that, but just an example that you see around the country is You take those 8 objectives that we have, and we start putting them on every council agenda item of which they pertain to, where it becomes hardwired within us to say, before something goes on a council agenda, we'd say, well, is this meeting the basic need or one of these elements? And not that every single item will always do that. There's some things that are logistical or clerical that would need to be a council item. But to get our staff, our departments, myself, the mayor's office, we have to continue to keep it in front of us. So you'll see mechanisms that will do that. That being one example that I certainly would support is, so when I go before council and I present an item that says we're going to do X, Y, and Z, we'd say, well, and it hits these 3 buckets that our citizens have told us are important to us. So, I think it is our job, it is my job to make sure that we continue to keep that strategic plan in front of us, and you'll see mechanisms of how we'll do that tangibly.
And speaking of the issues that are important to residents that are top of mind, affordable housing obviously was very high on that list. It was actually one of the most frequently asked questions or topics, in the questions we got for you tonight. And the first question I was planning to ask is, how can the city incentivize, that mixed-use development like that, various types of housing at all levels we need? And I think to an extent you answered that in the land development code overhaul. So I guess could you talk about, are there certain areas that we have problems, like whether it's neighborhoods or whether it's in our commercial type areas? Like, are there certain areas that that we need to go in and fix things?
Well, I would say, we've taken action in a couple of those areas. One of the things I didn't talk about tonight, and we haven't moved because of Baptist Hospital taking precedent in terms of timeliness. But you may, just as an example, you may not be aware, we were able to get a commercial revitalization grant for $5 million for Brownsville. So ultimately, that can be property acquisition, that could be facade improvements. So go to current business owners and say, here's a grant program that'll clean up your storefront and make the neighborhood more proud of how it looks. So there's mechanisms like that, but from a housing perspective, no, we aren't necessarily saying we've got this one area. And listen, it's a balance. Right now, on our desk is 2 near downtown on East Seaway property is the conversation about 2 significantly large mixed market rate multifamily projects. Well, those are market rate projects, and so one advantage that we have right now as a city is we may not have been in the position we were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where we would feel the need or the pressure to give a tax abatement or a credit on a market rate project. At some point you have to have pride in yourself and trust in yourself that you have a product that a developer is going to want, and that you don't need to just go incentivize every project. So as an example, take Maritime Park. The Maritime Park project, the Hard Rock Hotel, which also has affordable units proposed. 3 years ago, the initial proposal going back and forth was a 75% tax abatement for 10 years and a 50% abatement for the next 10 years. What we ended up with after that same 20 years, the city will see $20 million more in tax revenue on that exact same parcel than we would have 3 years before. And part of that is kind of standing our ground on the market rate side and saying, hey, we'll give where we need to give. We'll give in workforce housing. We've done that. Ultimately, we've given money or property to the Community Land Trust to say, we know that this doesn't pencil on its own. We've got to do something. There is no such thing as affordable housing that isn't subsidized in some way. And I think that's a big misperception out there, that we're expecting people to come in and build a unit that costs them $100 to build that they'll sell for $80. That just isn't going to happen. So the government's job I believe, is to help subsidize some of those income levels. But at the market rate side, it's a balance, because what you don't want to do is start a precedent that you're going to be giving tax abatements, that's money to fix roads, to pay our police officers, all of that. That's a big decision to make on the market rate side. So it just depends on what level you're talking about. But unfortunately, because the need is so great here, our strategy doesn't need to be as refined as we're only going to do 70% in this particular neighborhood. Right now, we are entertaining every option, and I think you've seen that. Whether we acquire land like the Motor Lodge, whether we knock down a gym that was unsafe for people to be in and use that for affordable housing, I mean, you can look at everything that we've done at the city, and it's a little bit different. You know, every one of those, the Maritime Park, every one of those has been handled differently. But the need is so great at this point. We are trying to shotgun fire this and get as many things going as possible, because we can't sit around and after 3 years say, well, we've got 5 units or we've got 2 units. I mean, the need is too great, and this continues to increase. So right now, our mode really is to be as aggressive as possible, especially on the workforce side, 80% to 120% AMI, to make those projects happen.
We have a question. Are there any, obviously there's a lot of time and effort devoted to downtown, and I know that you all are trying to hit, every neighborhood to make sure people have the things they want and need. But someone asked, are there specific plans for the north side of the city, kind of maybe in that corridor, closer to the mall and that sort of like airport, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I thought I'm really excited about one of those 8 things that I mentioned in the strategic plan that were that you guys mentioned as things that you are interested in, is creating these little commercial downtown pockets ultimately that aren't downtown, that are through the rest of the city. And so Brownsville would be a perfect example of that. I think one example that we're really looking at, and we're really excited to see some of the organic growth that's happening along Barrancas on the west side, where we got restaurants moving in over there. We've got some shops and that, event spaces and brewery over there, all that, where that's not incentivized by us or anything. That's just organically happening. So you like to see that, where you can start to create these additional pockets. On the north side, I absolutely think it's ripe for that. One of the difficulties is when the north side, and I'm talking about the commercial corridor, was built, it was built significantly for the vehicle. So when you think about a downtown-like commercial corridor, you don't think 6 lanes with a turn lane in the middle of it. And so, people would look at me crazy if I said we're going to do a little commercial corridor on 9th and Bayou. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't feel that way. So it'll be an interesting conversation, and one I'm excited about. I love the general idea of saying, hey, if you live off Langley or you live off Creighton or you're up by Gold Point, and like, why shouldn't we just sit on our hands and say, well, this is a bedroom community, and if that's what the community wants, is that there's something that gives that kind of neighborhood feel, like a neighborhood center, that isn't required to be downtown. I love that. My joke has been, I still need to talk to the person who is going in next door with their house. So I love the philosophical idea about it. I think the actual implementation is going to be a little complex. A lot of those 50-50 votes, Kevin, that I get, half the people want it, half the people don't. So we'll look into it, but what my answer to that ultimately is our city residents have requested that we have areas outside of our downtown that give that kind of commercial neighborhood feel, and we'll investigate that to the fullest.
One of the other topics that came up quite frequently was, around walkability and transportation and travel. And actually you kind of touched on one of the, I was happy with one of the questions, and I think the person who asked will be happy to hear you talked about the accessibility, that they'll have like drop-off sections for people who are seniors or who will have, AD. I'm sorry, this is better. All right, apologies. Well, actually, I'll say you talked a bit about some of the plans around the greater downtown as far as the hashtag Community Maritime Park. Are there plans to address parking along like the Main Street corridor as well as Palafox? Yeah, so to elaborate on if you go back to, I don't remember if it's the CRA plan. I've seen the photo of it, it's stuck in my head, but I think you can go all the way back to like 2010 or maybe even earlier, it might have been 2001, where there's actually this idea of putting a parking garage north of the ferry landing, where we're talking about putting one now. I would argue that probably 2001 and 2010 probably wasn't the right time to do it because of the need. Did we have any need? I mean, I would tell that story all the time that my granddad lived over off Barcelona, right behind, I call it the SunTrust building, of course, now the SCI building. And we would walk to Buccaneer Coin Shop on Palafox Street and not see one person, not one human being on a Saturday at 10 a.m., not one.
and that wasn't, I'm getting older, but it's not, that wasn't that long ago. I think we need to address parking because we asked 5,000 people who interact with our downtown, and their number one complaint was not cost. Their number one complaint was availability of spaces. That I can't find a space. And then we asked the follow-up question, when can you not find a space? And they said, well, we can't find a space, Mayor, on nights and weekends. And of course, that leads me into, well, what were we charging on nights and weekends? Nothing. Well, it's because every employee, every waiter, every waitress was parking on Palafox Street for 12 hours because it's free, and then you're circling around looking for a parking space. And so it's finding that balance between churn, that you got to incentivize enough to keep people moving to increase more inventory of spaces, and then also having enough infrastructure. And so that's where we found ourselves. We weren't charging enough to be getting anybody to move, and we weren't generating enough revenue to go address an issue like needing more spaces. So that's what this study is going to do, is we're going to look at it in many different ways. One other precedent that we're going to set with this project, and hopefully is an example for anybody else privately that's going to be building parking garages, is the aesthetic of the parking garage. I'm not particularly pleased with how our parking garages look around here. And when you go to other cities, there's a set standard that whether it's greenery, whether it's art, whether it's an aesthetic that continues to mold in with downtown. So I plan that if we do go this route and we build a parking garage, fingers crossed on the price tag of that thing, then that we should be setting an example of what we want these type of structures to look like, which could include first floor retail, first floor activation on the bottom floor. So we're going to allow an expert to come in and give us kind of a litany of options of what that might look like. But I think that's a great position for it, because not only if it's access to Palafox and downtown, but also when you think about all those amazing festivals that we have at Seville Square, now you're talking about only being about 3 blocks, 2 blocks to have. So if you're going to Arts Fest, right now, as we all know, it's a fight out there when there's Arts Fest or Seafood Fest at Seville Square to try to find a parking space, to be able to have a critical mass of parking there where you know you can count on it and that you'd find something I think would be valuable.
And actually kind of in that same realm, I guess could you talk a bit more about the plans around Community Maritime Park? Like, we've got a pretty major development that was approved by the council recently, and I guess what is your vision for that area?
Yeah, so Parcel 5, which is, if you're not familiar, is ultimately if you were walking out of a baseball game behind home plate, it's that triangle right in front of you. It's between the parking lot and the stadium is Parcel 5. So you saw, we've got affordable units and a Hard Rock Reverb Hotel being proposed there, probably in the $120 to $150 million range of investment. And so certainly going to be excited to see that going. We should, as was called for in the approval, is permits need to be pulled within 12 months of that project. In other words, we're going to know, a project like this has a lot of moving parts to it. We're going to know in 2025 whether this is going to take off or not. And the reason we're going to know is by the time you get to the point where you're pulling permits, you will be so financially invested. That's not something you're going to flippantly walk away from if you don't like it. So the rubber meets the road on that project in fall of 2025. One other cool aspect that you may have missed in that is you guys may have been involved in the West Main Master Plan, the conversation about what we want Maritime Park to look like. Some of our council members, staff, the question was, how will this project being proposed relate to what we said we wanted in the West Main Master Plan? So what we did is we hired the author of the West Main Master Plan as a city consultant who is now working in the room with Gensler Architects. So as that project continues to move forward, what won't happen is we're not going to hear, we won't have silence for 4 or 5 months, and then a rendering or an idea comes to us that's completely foreign to what we want. We now, as the city, have paid someone to be in the room on our behalf to make sure that as that project evolves, that it meets the spirit of what we want. And it's not just someone, it's literally the person who authored, Marina Corey of DPZ, who authored the West Main Master Plan on the behalf of our residents. So I feel extreme confidence that we have the right people in the room to see that project moving forward. The next parcels that you could see something on are Parcel 8, which is the one closest to the marina, if you've been, the new marina that we have there, and then Parcel 7, which is the triangle closest to Nick's Boathouse in Bruce Beach on the water there. Valencia, the hotel group, has the option on 7, and the same group, Inspired Communities of Florida, that is doing Hard Rock, has the option on 8. So both of them are in conversations now to bring something forward, and both hotel-based. And so we'll see what happens. But, as I always say, we have lots of projects that are being threatened here, and, what I want is to see them going in the ground. And that doesn't mean I don't believe that they will, but it is a good sign. We talk about, I lost count, I think we have 4 hotels, either have broken ground or are significantly moving forward. New World Landing, the Tristan Hotel over on Garden and Chase. Certainly looking at what we can do to help get the Grand Hotel back up and going. We're having conversations with our CRA about that. And we also have another one on Gregory Street there at 14th Avenue that's getting underway. So it's a good sign for us as a community being an investable city. We didn't go knock on their doors, they've knocked on ours. And so I like when there's a lot of projects being threatened. So we'll see what happens. But the first progress you're going to see at Maritime Park will be, by far, something happening with the Hard Rock Hotel on Parcel 5.
It actually kind of segues into another question, regarding tourism and visitors. The TDC, Tourism Development Council, had recommended that the county approve a bond for $90 million for about 60 of it was earmarked for a sports complex on the northern end of the county, and about 30 million for repairs to the Bay Center, which we all know is kind of toward the end of its life. I guess, how do you think that 90 million in TDC dollars, what do you think is the best use for the highest case for the residents?
Well, 55,000 people elected me to represent the city, and as I said when this came up at a press conference before, if you're asking my opinion as the mayor of the city of Pensacola, then having that facility be off 10 Mile Road doesn't bring a lot of value to the city. I was a sports writer. I'm a sports guy. It's nothing to do with the use. It's the location. And what we know is if you put that up on 10 Mile Road, where is everybody going to stay? They're either going to stay on 9 Mile Road or they're going to stay at the beach. And now, so we'll be a good freeway for everybody through our town to go up there and go out to the beach, but we're not going to see the return on investment. So I certainly support a amenity like that. I think that would be good for our community and good for economic development. But I strongly support that be located somewhere near the Bay Center. So my joke every time I go into the room with conversations about this right now is my advantage and disadvantage about this topic is that I don't have any dog in the fight. We don't control the Bay Center. We don't control the tech park. So I get to just come freewheel all these ideas, because I don't have any obligation. But my strong suggestion is that $60 or $70 million be used to repair the Bay Center or put any type of mixed-use facility at the Bay Center, and then spend basically flip what's been proposed. And then if there's some economic development, sports development project that would need to happen out at 9 Mile Road for $20 or $30 million, whether that be new fields, whether that be a field house, something like that. But how can I sit up here and say my priority is to fix things that we need to have fixed? I've never had anybody come to me and say, wow, look at the condition of the Bay Center, it's unbelievable. I've never had anybody say that. Why aren't we fixing it? Why are we saying let's go build something new when we all agree that, including the operators? I mean, it's nothing they're doing. It's a 42-year-old building. We've got to do something with it. And I'll also say one misperception is that anybody who says we should knock it down, that won't happen. And what I mean is what you're looking at is a massive multi-million dollar overhaul, but the bones, from my understanding, are good. So people are like, well, why don't you just bulldoze it and start new? Well, because that would be $400 million. That is not a feasible thing. But there are many projects all over the country where you wouldn't, if we were to invest that amount of money into the Bay Center, you wouldn't know it wasn't new. I mean, in other words, there's lots of technology where they can enhance it, they can change, you could have, higher end seating, you could do suites in there, all these different things that you could do within the confines of that Bay Center where you wouldn't even recognize it, but you'd still have those same bones that would have cost you $150 million to recreate. So that's neither here nor there, but just when you're talking about it over coffee or whatever, there is no scenario that makes any financial sense whatsoever, where you would bulldoze the Bay Center. You would just repurpose or overhaul it completely.
And speaking, well, another project you talked about was the work out at the Baptist Hospital campus. Obviously, we're early in, still trying to figure out if it's financially feasible. But I guess well, one of the questions we got is there any thoughts to a master plan that before we start?
Yes, absolutely. A project of that size, a development of that size, my job should be, and my obligation to the city should be, to try to help on the things that I know about and be really self-aware when it's something that is not in my purview or my expertise. I have not, nor has anybody at the city, gone and master developed a parcel of that size and consequence. So what that means is, yes, when we get through that timeline I mentioned to you guys, that first 4 or 5 months, once that happens, we know we can afford to knock it down. We know we're going to take donation of the property. When those two very important things happen, we will immediately, if not already, be setting the stage prior to that for us to engage someone to help us navigate it. That doesn't mean we don't have ideas of what we want to do. If someone said, Mayor, philosophically, what would you like to see at Baptist? I would like to see mixed income housing, every level of housing, from market rate to 60% AMI, which is already going to be there, and that's the projects that are happening first. I'd like to see mixed income housing anchored by some academic element, whether that be a school, a charter school, a magnet school, something. I think anchored, and Bayou District Foundation in New Orleans, I think, is the best example of what I would love to see, of some iteration of that. If you can Google Bayou District Foundation if you're not aware of it. They've done amazing things in New Orleans, changed lives in New Orleans with this concept that we all live together. And mixed income housing, sometimes people look at me funny and I say, we've tried saying that poor people should live over here and wealthy people should live over here. We've tried that for decades and it doesn't work. Just ask our police department where they go. It hasn't worked. When you look at these projects that have gone mixed income, where the janitor's kids live next to the attorney's kids, what you see is a 99% decrease in crime. What you see is longer life expectancy, where people in the zip code over live till they're 70, and the zip code next to them, they live till they're 55. So you can truly impact lives, not in the philosophical way, but in the real way, by us living together and congregating together, living in the same units, and becoming neighbors. And so mixed income housing, I'm a big believer in, and that's what they did at Bayou District. They have one public housing unit next to a workforce housing unit, next to a market rate unit. 3 in a building, can't tell the difference, exact same size, exact same quality, 99% decrease in crime from where they were before. So I definitely encourage you. You may recall, I took a busload of folks over there from our community, stakeholders in this type of process, to come see it for themselves, and I think they left pretty impressed. So something to look at, and that would be my vision for something at Baptist Hospital. But yes, we're going to have some experts come in and help us navigate that.
Okay. And something that our audience may be aware of is our U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz has resigned, which has opened the door for a new U.S. representative to be appointed by the governor. But from your perspective, what does the next member of the U.S. House of Representatives and other members of our federal what can they do for Pensacola? What are you hoping for or looking for?
Bring us as much money as possible. Really, that is one thing. I would say one challenge we've had, and not just not to one specific federal leader, but I understand the philosophy of earmarks and bringing things back to a community. But from where I sit, if the money is being allocated, there is lots of money that, the budget is out of control at the federal level, no doubt about it. And if decisions are made holistically about lowering that budget, I'm not saying that that's not something I fully support. But if the dollars are going to be allocated, when the dollars enter the arena, I believe my job is to try to get as many of those for the city of Pensacola as possible. And if that decision has already been made that I'm not part of, then so I certainly want someone who's going to go fight for the city of Pensacola to help us accomplish the things that we need to accomplish in our city. I would say that's number one. And number two is do a good job to be in positions of authority to help us with those things, whether it be on the veteran side. Jeff Miller is a good example, was in leadership on the veteran side of the House. And 40% of our economy is generated by the military here. And so putting themselves in good positions to help us be successful. So, and the money thing, that would be the number one.
All right. And I guess I'll just close us out by asking, you've been in office for 2 years now, or like halfway through your term. Mm-hmm. I guess what two things are you most excited about? They're your biggest things that you want to make sure get done? Like, just for the next, 2 years, like what are you really excited to just kind of get done, make happen?
Yeah, I think I've been asked to reflect on that a lot in the last week or so, and I think the season we're in right now in this administration is that we've set up a lot of pins that now need to be knocked down, and that's why I really believe we aren't going to be proactively looking for when you think about the monster Baptist Hospital project in front of us, when you think about a $30 million Hollis T. Williams project in front of us, a $10 million Fricker Center, American Magic. You heard me talk about all of those things. Add all of those up, and that's a lot of bandwidth of our folks, and we want to make sure those things get done right. So I think we've set the table pretty well. I'm very proud of that, and I hope that shows how intentional and aggressive that our administration has been in saying we're not going to sleep real well until we get things across the finish line. But I think as we enter year 3, the job is to get these things done. We have a strategic plan. It's time to get it implemented. We've got Baptist Hospital money. It's time to get it done. And so I really think this is a year of execution for us. I think we've got the projects. We're in great position right now, and I should be accountable to getting all those done. I can't promise they'll be done in 2025, Kevin. We might still be talking about them next year, but especially ones like Baptist. But absolutely. My job is to take these amazing starts that we've had, thanks to our team and our community, and help get them done.
Awesome. Well, could we have one more round of applause for our mayor?
Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for coming out on a kind of a dreary Thursday night. This week's flying by. But everything we do here at CivicCon is, kind of guided by you. So we ask that you take a survey on your way out, complete it, let us know what issues you want us to tackle next, what people you want to hear from. And otherwise, we hope you have a safe and happy New Year, happy holidays, and have a good night.
Thank you all.